to news analysis, coming to you live on Politics and Business TV, the top stories. Local government autonomy, Nigerian draws up new expectation list as Supreme Court breaks government's stronghold. Dangote lists refinery shares March 2025, supply petrol August 2024. CBN drops bureau the change operators in 123 million naira sale. Details coming up shortly. Welcome back. I am Amina Idris. Now the news. For years, local governments in Nigeria have struggled under the heavy hand of state governors who wielding significant control over local councils have often undermined their autonomy. This control manifested in various ways, including the dissolution of elected councils, the appointment of caretaker committees, and the manipulation of local government funds through the state joint local government accounts. These practices have stifled local governance, inhibited development, and disenfranchised citizens at the grassroots level. The over-centralization of power perpetuated inefficiencies and corruption. In a decisive move, the Supreme Court last Thursday set the councils free from the yokes of the governors, granting them financial autonomy. The court declared the governor's retention of local government funds as a violation of the 1999 Constitution. The ruling upholds the constitutional guarantee of a system of local government by democratically elected councils as enshrined in Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution. The judgment mandates that local governments should receive their funds directly from the Federation account, bypassing state governments. Meanwhile, the President and Chief Executive Officer of Dangote Industries Limited, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, has disclosed that the Dangote Petroleum Refinery will be listed on the Nigerian exchange before the end of March 2025. This came as the refinery again delayed the date for the supply of premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, till August. Another shift from July. Dangote disclosed that the refinery was set to roll out its petrol in August 2024, having resolved its crude oil supply issues through the help of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the federal government. He stated this when he took senior journalists on a tour of the refinery and Dangote's fertilizer plant in Ibeji, Lekki, Lagos on Sunday. Bureau de change operators were excluded in the latest tranche of forex sales by the Central Bank of Nigeria to authorize dealers. This was disclosed in an interview by the president of the Association of Bureau de change operators of Nigeria, Aminu Godebe. The Apex Bank had commenced sales of forex worth $122.67 million to 46 approved dealers as part of significant step to stabilize the foreign exchange markets. Authorized dealers include banks and BDC operators. You are watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. We will be going on a short break, and when we're back, we shall be joined by our guest for today, Mr. Wale Joshua, a chartered accountant and tax administrator, who will be analyzing our today's topic, Nigeria rising debts and its implications. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Limited, Mr. Bismarck Ruwan, has declared that Nigeria is moving from a debt sustainability path to a debt trap path. Nigeria's total public debt stood at 121.67 trillion naira in 2024, which is made up of 65.65 trillion naira and 56.02 trillion naira domestic and external borrowings respectively, comprising of 111.52 trillion naira federal government debt and sub-national government 10.15 trillion naira debts. Ruwan made this declaration in his July 2024 presentation at the LBS breakfast titled Debt or Debt Trap, 21st Century Road to Economic Salvation, where he stated that debt accumulation is not bad in itself, but its utilization would determine if it would become a trap. According to him, proper use of debt could lead to better infrastructure and enhanced public services like healthcare, education, etc. But it could become a trap when its utilization is directed toward consumption, corruption, and mismanagement. According to him, increasing bilateral and multilateral debt indicated rising financial commitment, increased borrowing for development projects, and budgetary support that suggests potential future financial pressure if the growth in debt is not matched by economic growth and revenue generation. He said that the high external debt service to revenue ratio is a concern and highlights the need for Nigeria to significantly boost its revenue generation capacity. Therefore, continued efforts in economic diversification, export enhancement, and fiscal discipline are essential to maintain and improve Nigeria's debt sustainability. He also observed that there is a link between debt accumulation and productivity, pointing out that higher public debt than total factor productivity leads to several adverse outcomes such as higher interest rates, reduced investment, higher debt servicing costs, fiscal sustainability issues, limited policy flexibility, and slower long-term economic growth. The Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Limited, Mrs. Ruwan, has declared that Nigeria is moving from a debt sustainability path to a debt trap. Nigeria's total public debt stood at 121.67 trillion in 2024, which is made up of 65.65 trillion naira and 56.02 trillion naira domestic and external borrowings respectively. We shall be going on a short break, and when we're back, we'll be joined by our guests via a phone call. Stay tuned. Welcome back.
Yeah,
And now, today's topic will be analyzed by our today's guest, Mr. Wale Joshua, a chartered accountant and tax administrator. Good afternoon, Mr. Wale Joshua.
Good afternoon. Thanks.
So I want to know what you think of our rising debt today.
As analyzed on your program, the effect of the rising debt on Nigeria is unprecedented. Actually, when we think about rising debt, there should be a cause to what led to the rising debt, which has to do with productivity. When there is no productivity in any sector of the country, it's pertinent of the government to introduce debt in order to attract foreign direct investment. But this should be directed towards productivity rather than wasteful spending and uncontrolled spending. Uncontrolled spending and wasteful spending in our debt management structure is what led to inefficiency of debt. Debt is actually used to stimulate productivity. The reverse is the case in our condition, because ordinarily we should have gotten a positive response to introduction of our debts, which is not. So we still need more debt to service the reality rather than what we pretend to be. As of the last time, we still pretending to have introduced debt to stimulate productivity, but rather we've introduced debt to service some individual and some wasteful spending. And quite fortunate enough, we took much of foreign debt, which has a way of going back to the foreign nation without achieving its purpose. So foreign debt is really a burden on Nigeria, and we are looking at how to solve it. Worthy of note, foreign debt or any other debt will always keep pressure on the government. On the government in the sense that it will reduce fiscal growth, it will reduce projection, and it will be strenuous on our budget system. Because when it comes to budget, it's always better you finance through your revenue. So if you cannot finance through your revenue, you have to borrow to finance your expenses through debts and foreign and local debts. So it will be difficult on the citizens because it will lead to governments adopting aggressive tax method in order to shore up the revenue gap in servicing expenses. So it's a pressure on the government. Also, it's a pressure on the citizen, because the government will likely or may likely adopt aggressive tax method in order to bring up the government revenue.
Okay. So at this point, is there a cause for alarm? Should Nigerians be bothered about this?
Yes, we should be bothered already. We should be looking at what's next, because we are constrained in many other flanks. We are constrained in agricultural productivity. I will equally always like to tell anybody that views government's involvement in agriculture as a good one, like supplies of inputs. Are we not subsidizing exports? Are we not subsidizing export for people's gain? Because rice productivity, we took loan to finance the rice productivity. At the end of the day, the rice farmers we produce, they would find a way of selling it outside the country. Yes, they've made a gain. Yes, foreign direct investment, foreign currency has been enhanced. But to whose gain? Is it to the national gain or to the farmers' gain? So we should look and review our policies. So there is a cause for alarm. There is a cause for alarm, and the cause for alarm is just what will become of our nation if we are using more than 80% of our revenue to service the debt. It's a cause for alarm. If we are expected to generate or improve our productivity by certain percentage, and the productivity is not improved, that means we still have to go back to the loan market to take more loans to service our consumption or expenses. So there is a cause for alarm. Another cause for alarm is that if you look at what we were to achieve, which is industrial growth, revenue growth, and something like per capita income growth. If this is not achieved, many of our brains will have to travel abroad to find greener pasture. So there is a cause for alarm in all flanks, from all flanks of our nationhood. There is a real big one at hand, because we are using much of our revenue to finance our debt servicing. So it's a real cause for alarm.
So I want to ask, what happened to our revenue generation agencies? Why can't they meet up with their targets?
The revenue generating agencies are recording growth in their indices, but this notwithstanding could not cover the expenses of the government, because government is increasing their expenses, their budgetary capacity every year. So it's behold on the revenue generating agencies to bring more revenue to table. So if you are to do this, that means you have to demand more from the citizenry. You have to gain more in terms of custom duties, custom and excise duties, in terms of tax revenue, in terms of revenue generated from extractive industry and petroleum industry. But if these productivities are not increased, there is no way we can make much revenue. If productivity is not increased on the SMEs, on our large companies, and even on the extractive industries, we may not be able to increase our revenue. Take for instance the issue of oil bunkering. Oil bunkering as eating deep into oil revenue. Extractive industry, illegal mining has eaten deep into productivity in the extractive industry. Take the agricultural industry for an example. Agricultural industry is faced with insecurity, and take the normal company that deals with servicing, or let me say productive, production. They are bedeviled with increase tax revenue, increase levy from the government in order to show up this revenue. So it's really a pathetic situation when we think about issue of taking debt. Ironically, we have to borrow more to lead ourselves out of this debt quagmire. If you are going to improve our productivity, is either we close our border and think about what we can and produce what we can consume, or look outside the borders and bring in what we can imitate. Therefore, we have to look at reverse engineering. How can we do most of what we import? But this has to do with government policies and government. It must be government driven. If government can drive our reverse engineering like China did, they thrived more on reverse engineering, and they got many of these things produced in their country and then export it out. We don't export if we don't process. So these are points which we have to look into. So our debt is really bad, but quite unfortunate. We have to take more debt to take ourselves out of this situation. So it depends on how sincere the government is and how disciplined the fiscal policy of the government is in order to achieve this difficult task.
So with the way the Nigerian economy is struggling, with the way Nigeria is struggling at the moment, what do you think is the implication of this debt on the Nigerian economy?
The implication is just as crystal clear as anything. The implication is that we have to use much of our revenue to service our debt. It's quite unfortunate we are not looking at individual contributions to this, because as high as your income is, you'll be taxed in that proportion, and you'll be taxed aggressively. What I mean by aggressively is that government will like to look at your books and be sure that you are not lying about any issue on that book. It will be to be sure that you are not leaving anything out. That's aggressiveness in taxation. So it will lead to more taxes. It will lead to more demand for more taxes from citizens. It will lead to creating more tax flanks. If that is not done, it will lead to what we call reduction in our per capita income. Is it that government is willing to reduce the budgetary spending, or will not be able to meet its budgetary targets? That means what's the budget to achieve? Government may not be able to achieve it, which has to do with the infrastructure. So we should be looking at infrastructure decay. We should be looking at possibly poor electricity supply. We should be looking at many other things. things if the government is if government is not able to meet the target, because government revenue will always be used to service to bring about to meet the social expenses and social requirements, which includes the infrastructure. So if the infrastructures are not met, if payment of salaries are not met, we will be looking at something challenging. Uh, Another thing that we should take into cognizance is that the inflation rate may not likely come down as of today. The inflation rate is way above 34%, which means if you are going to the market by next year, what you bought at certain price today will have increased by more than 30% in the coming year. So in that aside, we should look at what excess cash in circulation is bringing to our country. If you borrow to fund infrastructure, to fund productivity, and it's getting to wrong hands, it will be spent like as if the cash is a gift. It's like circulating. It's like putting an idle cash in circulation. So much cash will be pursuing few goods. But if our borrowings, if our expenses are put into productive use, it's the productivity will shoulder the weight of the cash in circulation. That means there will be much production, which cash in circulation will be commensurate to. But our debt as of today is bringing excess cash in circulation. Not only that, the little we generate as tax, a portion goes into debt servicing. The remaining portion, where is it going to? Is it going into productivity? Is it going into agricultural services? If we don't increase productivity, I doubt if we are going anywhere. We have to increase productivity and produce what we consume. We have to do a lot of reverse engineering and in order to gain much. Then we have to stem the rate at which the multinational companies are leaving Nigeria. So we have to do a lot in this. So we have a lot to lose rather than to gain in this in increased debt burden on our national existence.
Thank you so much. In essence, we are borrowing money, but the money is being mishandled.
Yes, the money is being mishandled,
Thank
or
you
a
very
part of
much.
the money is being mishandled.
Thank you very much for joining us on the program today, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
And that has been Mr. Wale Joshua, a chartered accountant and tax administrator. And that will be the size of the program for today. Thank you for staying tuned. Bye for now.
Thank you.